So in this video, I want to quickly follow up on the announcement from earlier today on Piazza, which made people a little bit concerned. First of all, I want to say I'm not out to get you. If you're not doing anything wrong, it's all fine. I do want to clarify what they said. So let's start with an example. So let's say that the problem on the P set says write a function named SQ that returns the square of the argument, right? So like SQ of 5 should be 25, for example, right? So the way you would write it is like, so here's the function, and like I'll just fill it out here. So I'll just say like x squared, okay? So one thing that will happen with Gradescope has hidden test cases, which you wouldn't see, but it also has non-hidden test cases, visible cases, which you will see. So let's say that you mess up, and instead of saying x squared, you say x times 2. Okay? So one thing you might see on Gradescope is I gave you 5, and I got 10 back, but I expected 25. So one thing that you might be tempted to do for partial credit, and that you absolutely must not do, is say, okay, well, I know the answer for at least one test case, so why don't I just say 25? Might not work in general, but it will work for x equals 5, so that's something. No, you can't do that. That's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be trying to write the function. So a more sophisticated version of this, which you should also not do, is to say, well, like maybe I'll say, I know that for 5 it's supposed to be 10, so I'll just say like, if x is equal to 5, then the value is going to be 25. I know that, Gradescope told me, and otherwise I don't really know how to do the function, so I'll just do 0. Can't do that, okay? That's, if we catch you, that is dishonesty. You must not do that. If you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, which is trying to write x squared, whether you're successful at that or not, you're completely fine, right? So the only thing you can do is like look at the test cases and just kind of, instead of using them in order to change your function in a way that makes sense, you're just making them be like special cases. So must not do that. Other than that, you're fine. So while I'm here, I wanted to kind of go over the general approach here, which is, well, basically you should do your own work, which means that you can't look at other people's code if that code is meant to be addressing the problem that you're supposed to be addressing yourself, right? So you can't just go Googling for like R square function if that's what I asked you to do, because I asked you to figure it out yourself, right? At the same time, if you want to know, okay, like how do I check whether an integer is odd or even, as you needed to do in precept 2, that would be completely fine to Google, because it's not as if I asked you to write a function that determines whether an integer is odd or even. It was a part of a larger problem where it's legitimate to say, well, like there is this small defined subtask, which I don't know how to do, so I'll go find out. Now, Googling a lot of the time is not the most efficient thing. If I'm giving you a problem, I probably gave you all the tools for how to do the problem in the course notes. You paid $50,000 for them or whatever it is, so they must be better than a random person on Google. So if you do find kind of in future projects, like that would not be happening, I think, in the first half of the course, but in the latter half of the course, if you do look for code that does like something specific that you need in order to accomplish the overall task that you were assigned, it's good practice to attribute it, right? You should not be finding yourself like copying and pasting large chunks of code. If you're in doubt, please just ask and we'll tell you what's appropriate and what's not. Okay. Have an honorable year and a good weekend.